Namaste and welcome. Welcome to another edition of Live, Love, Engage. And I am excited to have our guest on the show today because I know that she's going to really help us to have better lives, live better lives, I think. And I want to welcome Dr. Libby Adams to Live, Love, Engage.
Thank you, Gloria. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited, and I've watched some of your classes that you've done, and I want to share with all of our listeners and viewers out there just why I thought you would be such an excellent guest. So she is a speaker, author, and transformation strategist, using her over 30 years of experience in education, leadership, and personal growth to help hundreds of high achievers transform their lives from the inside out, reaching their goals in record time. And Libby is also the founder and president of the International Academy of Self-Knowledge. She's a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and the creator of Transformational Meditation, not to be confused with Transcendental Meditation, and the creator of Spiritual R.E.H.A.B, which is something we're going to talk about. It's a 28-day transformational journey for those who do not have alcohol or substance abuses, but still want to rehab something in their lives. And I thought we would kind of start off right there, which is what actually led you to come up with this concept of a spiritual rehab?
My ex-husband, now ex-husband, then husband, played in the NBA for 5 years. And when he got cut in his 5th year from the Atlanta Hawks, he did not have the skills to make that transition to something he'd done all his life to the real world, as I call it.
Right.
So his best way of coping was to do drugs and alcohol,
Mhm.
which landed him in a 28-day substance abuse program. Now that's great. And one day the executive director comes up to me and she says, "Your husband is doing so well. He's the president of the rehab group." And I'm thinking, oh, great. He's got rehab. They've got rehab. And I'm out here, meanwhile, dealing with paying the bills, dealing with the chaos that got created, raising the kids and taking care of all of that stuff. And I was exhausted. I was exhausted and I was upset, right? Because life is hard. Marriage is hard. Working is hard. And we all need to rehab something, right? So I said, where's my damn rehab? I'll never forget it, Gloria. It's like, where's my damn rehab? Because I need to rehab some stuff as well, right? And so it took me 20 years to come up with a program, but I did. And then what's interesting, what happened is once he was clean and sober for a while, and this was like in 2001, he said, "Would you be willing to help me put together a rehab program for drugs and alcohol and use your transformational meditation?" And I thought, yeah, I don't really want to do that. But my inner guidance was, yes, we're going to do it. So we did it and we got really good results. See, because I had been at that point, I've been doing my own transformational work with people since 1994. So it was like 7 years later, right?
Yeah.
And so we put that together. And for 2 years, it went great. And then after 2 years, I said, look, you've got your program. I'm going to go rewrite this for people that don't have drug issues or alcohol, because where's their rehab, right? So I was really sensitive to that. And that's exactly what I did. And so I went to India, I rewrote the program. And I've been doing that now for almost 19 years. And I wouldn't have really thought to do any kind of rehab idea because normally everybody thinks it's for drugs and rehab, right?
Right.
But recently, you know how they've been rehabbing houses on those shows, Gloria? So then it's
Yes.
like, yeah, you know what? Houses get rehabbed. So it's like, yeah, we all need to rehab something. We need to rehab our past, rehab our emotions, rehab our health, finances, career, relationships, and all of that. So my tagline is, we all need to rehab something, right? But where are we supposed to go? I mean, you can't just go, formerly, you can't just go check into a 28-day program and say, oh, I hate my life. I hate my job. Can I just check in for 28 days? It's like, no. But now people can, and they don't need to check in. They don't need to be going to a facility. all done on Zoom all over the world. And that's what I've been doing day in. I usually work 7 days a week because I love it.
Well, that's good. I'm so glad you do. And it's interesting that you share that story with us, because I don't think people really realize that, yes, you of course, if you're married to someone, or you've got a loved one in the family who needs help, and and then they go into a place like that, they go into a rehab and they get help, and they don't think about then, well, what are you doing outside? Because you're still the one who is, number one, you've had to been dealing with that all along anyway, and now you're still trying to pick up the pieces. And it reminded me, I actually saw a movie not too long ago. It had oh shoot, now I just Chris O'Dowd and the woman who is in Bridesmaids, and she's a wonderful comedian, and her name is escaping me at the moment. But her husband, they had a situation where they lost a child there through SIDS, and he really lost it, and so he went into rehab. But then it really focused on her, because she was the one trying to manage, she's coping with grief too from losing a child. And I think she may not have said, like, where's my rehab, but that's sort of the thought that came about that. So I'm glad that you were able to find your rehab. So you kind of talked a little bit about why someone would want to go into this, but I don't know if you could maybe even elaborate it on that a little bit more. Why would someone really either want and or need to do this for themselves?
Right, right. And it goes on a continuum, anywhere from somebody who just is like they're having to deal with negative emotions, like they're having negative thoughts and emotions and actions, and they want to eliminate those, all the way to high achievers. That high achievers want to eliminate something that's preventing them from getting to their next level. They're at 1 million, they want to go to 5 million, right? So usually people are rehabbing their thoughts and their belief system and that. But also, it's like I made an acronym out of rehab. So R is for reclaim who you are and why you're here, right? Like that's enough for most people. And then eliminate the negative thoughts, emotions, and actions. Have clarity about what your next step is and how to take it. Accelerate. Then A is for accelerate your growth through a connection with some kind of higher power. And B is become peaceful, happy, and productive. My whole program has always been based on a belief in some kind of higher power. It doesn't matter the religion, right? I have people in Islam and Buddhists, Christians, whatever else I'm forgetting. And it doesn't matter what religion, or it doesn't matter what their belief is, they call God or infinite intelligence. But my work is based on that, because Einstein said, and I'll paraphrase him, you can't solve the problem with the same level of mind that created the problem. So the conscious mind is the one that actually created the problem. So we have to get higher to a super conscious or universal mind that is going to remediate that problem. And you were talking about transformational meditation, and that's what that does. It's funny that you talked about, transcendental meditation, we call TM, and I've been initiated into TM. My initials are TFM, because TM is trademarked for transcendental. So transformational is capital T, lowercase f, capital M, TFM.
Very good. I like that. So what actually happens during rehab? So when someone goes, what does that look like? As opposed to, we've probably even seen like movies of someone in, like group sessions and things like that. So for addictions and things like that. So what about yours?
The movie that I thought you were going to say, and you'll have to text me later and tell me what the name of that was with, or you know what, I can look it up with Chris O'Donnell. Was it Chris O'Donnell?
No, Chris O'Dowd, actually.
Okay, all right. I thought you were going to say the movie was 28 Days with Sandra Bullock.
Oh,
because she had to go into rehab in that story. But anyway, what happens is everything is done one-on-one. I've always done my work one-on-one. I was in Tony Robbins' organization for a year volunteering, and I staffed Date with Destiny 6 times. And there's a place for group work. I was with Deepak Chopra for a year. I was in my NLP organization for a year, and all of that is group stuff. But what I found is I can't get the real specific customized results I want unless I do it one-on-one. So I don't care. You know, people are like, oh, Libby, how are you going to scale? How are you going to reach more people? It's like, well, the way I'm going to scale is I have coaches that do the one-on-one, right? So it are coaches doing the same thing, because it's sort of like, you know, here's a religious reference, you know, Jesus leaving, or even a shepherd, let's make it non-religious, right? The shepherd leaving the 99 sheep to go find the one lost sheep. It's like, that's just, it just is not as effective. And I can't guarantee results if we're not there monitoring them. And everybody's so different, and everybody starts at a different place. So I only know how to do it the way I do it, but we get 100% results because number one, we screen them to make sure they're a good fit. And number two, we're with them, guiding them, going until they get their result. And 28 days is a long time to be able to make the shifts and move along. So it's on Zoom, and it's three things. One, it's like skills. And skill of day number one comes from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. What is your desire? What do you want? Right? We know the train is not going to pull out of the station unless we put in the coal and the wood. It's just going to sit there. So desire is that heat that moves the train, right? And then there are 27 other skills. People don't think about that it's a skill to know what you want. Because you could ask people, it's like, what do you want? They're like, oh, I don't know, you know? And then like day 2 is clarity. Day 3 is purpose. Why are you even here on this earth? So it's 28 life skills. And this comes a lot from my having taught school. I'm pretty skills oriented. I was in the California public school for 9 years, teaching junior high Spanish. But so I love to teach, right? So teach skills. Number 2, we have to have goal attainment. It's like, well, what do you want to create? Well, then we better have a good plan, because Napoleon Hill said, desire backed by a good plan and right action is the formula for success. So we got to make good plans. I'm supporting them. We're supporting them, keeping them accountable for their good plans. And then the third thing is the transformational work, using the transformational meditation. So let's say they go out and to do something. It's like, oh, I'm going to do such and such today, and they don't get it done. Then we find out what was the part in the subconscious that prevented that thing from getting done. Do the transformational meditation, then send them out the next day. It's like, okay, now go do it. Now that you have the subconscious infrastructure to be able to do that thing, now go do it.
Yeah. Can you, because I know I watched this class of yours where you really went into detail about explaining the different parts of the mind, but can you maybe just do a brief overview a little bit, just to help people understand, you know, the importance of, you know, really being able to reach that subconscious?
Yes. And you know what else? In addition, and even beyond the subconscious, they've got to reach the super conscious. So it's like, what is that, right? So I say that there are 4 expressions of mind, unless people are more in the Eastern philosophy and they have 3 expressions of mind, but it doesn't matter. Either way, there's the universal mind, people will call God, infinite intelligence, whatever, people understand what that is. The next one is the superconscious mind. That's my spirit or my soul, my higher self, the part of us that when it leaves our body, they call us dead. Right. In that video that you were watching, there's a girl in a hospital room, and then you see another body, like a clone floating above her. It's like, yeah, that spirit left her body. That's called the superconscious mind. Then we have the conscious mind. It's like, yeah, let me analyze stuff and make good choices, and I have free will, so you know, I'll do what I want. And then the subconscious mind's running the body, storing all the data. For example, if I said, Gloria, what color is your car? Then what would you tell me?
I would say blue.
Okay, so where was that information? 5 seconds ago, stored in the subconscious mind. But those 4 expressions of mind set up 3 versions. This is my favorite. I'm excited today. I've been talking about this for 28 years. I'm excited as much today to talk about it because it's something that people don't think about, right? So I love talking about stuff that people don't think about. There are 3 versions of I, or 3 versions of you, right? People just think, well, I this, I that, but there's not just one I. So number 1 I is, you know, Wayne Dyer says, and he's quoting a French guy, But Wayne Dyer says we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, already there's a setup for two, right? So there's my spiritual being that I call the big I. Then there's your game piece on the Monopoly board that you call Gloria, and it looks like you know, jumping around and says, I think I will do this and that, and I think I'll have a pear and 2 strawberries. No, I'll do that tomorrow, right?
Right.
And then there's what I call the little I. The little I is a part of our consciousness that splits off and starts having this alternate agenda, not going where we want. And it splits off because we say something that's not true. So if this is me, and this is me and my spiritual self, and I am worthy and I'm whole and I'm all that, and then something happens and I go, oh, I'm no good. It's like this part splits off, and we call it a part of me feels not worthy. Right. And it's so weird because people will literally put their hands out. They'll go, on the one hand, I feel like I can do it and I deserve it. But on the other hand, I just don't feel worthy. So my work is with their hands, right? So, but in this hand, we're going to bring out the infinite intelligence or God. This hand will bring out the part that's, gone awry. The coaches facilitate a dialogue, and boom, they come back together. The most powerful one that I can tell you in a short story was this pilot. And this happened about, let's say 2002. And we were doing this transformational meditation exercise. He flew and probably still does fly for a major airline. And he said, after 2001, he said, I feel like every time I go up, I'm playing Russian roulette. Now, like, am I going to get shot down, right? And so, or something going to happen. Imagine the stress of a pilot whose job is to fly all day long, thinking that. So we do the transformational meditation. He was in the 28-day class. He brings out, let's just say God is what he was. And then he brings out, and we use the imagination, right? So he imagines a picture of this part that goes, I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette. And then I start facilitating this, right? So this part's like, well, is this part aware that God is in the other hand? It's like, what? Oh, okay. Like, do you trust God? Yes. So I go, what's God's viewpoint on that? And God says, I'm flying the plane. This part's like, what? And then it's like, would you like to be able to believe that and just hand it over to God? Boom. That was a one and done. He never had fear about that again because he realized that it wasn't all on his shoulders. I love that story, Gloria.
I do too. That is so powerful. And I love also the way that you also talk about the way that you describe, these two hands, and bringing the two sides of ourselves together. I think that's so very powerful and concrete in that it makes it easy for people to really be able to picture it. And that is so important because sometimes we want things to be fixed, but then we also get maybe confused about the ways to do it. And sometimes it just seems easier to be stuck into rather than to make the change, but you have a way of being able to do that. That helps people. And I think it's really, really powerful. I want to talk a little bit more about, let's talk about you a little bit, maybe just change gears just slightly.
Okay.
So what's the biggest challenge other than, dealing with your husband, certainly, but maybe since starting this work, what's the biggest challenge you've ever had to overcome?
In starting the work?
Yeah.
Marketing.
No?
And that's just, it may seem like maybe an obvious answer or something, but what's really interesting is when we go into business, right? And we have our skills, right? Like you interview people, and I'm sure you've done like a lot of other things. I was at this college forum for my sorority back in Cal State Long Beach, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, talking to them about being an entrepreneur. And I said, listen, what you need to understand is you may think you're going to be a wedding planner, but your number one job is you're in marketing. And so don't miscalculate on how much marketing goes into whatever business anybody wants wants to do, because that doesn't just happen, by itself. And you know that as well. So that actually, once I got past, with my ex-husband and, got the business rolling, the challenges that I've had haven't been that significant. I got COVID, but that didn't last very long. That was okay. I didn't kill me. I can't really think of any like real big challenges, because by the time I got to put my work together, man, you know what? I should say this. I started my own transformational work in 1974. It's like, do the math on that. So the first training I ever took of transformational growth was called the EST training. Do you know that one?
I
EST?
have heard of that. Yeah. I think my sister might have done that because she was 10 years older than me. So yeah.
Like back in the 70s.
Yeah.
My mother was a school psychologist. She was the psychologist in the district where I taught. And she had gone through that. She said, oh, you want to go through this thing. I hated that thing, Gloria. It was so harsh. It was one of those where they're up in your face, like yelling at you. You can't go to the bathroom. You can't, it's like you can't do anything. And they were calling us names and stuff like that. And man, that was my introduction to transformational work. I was 24 and I thought, there must be a better way. And it took me a while, but I created a kinder and gentler approach. But after going through the S training, and Landmark comes out of that. Some of the trainers from S branched off. Some did Live Springs, some created the Landmark and the Landmark Forum and all that. But the granddaddy of the whole thing was the S training. But I went through other trainings, and there were often clergy, psychologists, and me. And I'm like, what am I doing here? In all of these courses that I took. But in 1989 was when I bumped into Tony Robbins. And I did not realize that you could have rapid transformation until that guy. So I was at the fire walk, which is, I think everybody should walk on fire if they haven't done it, because it's pretty crazy.
It is. I've done it. So yeah. I did. Yeah, I did it through his program. Yeah.
Tell me about your experience of it.
It just boggled the mind afterwards. I would just say to think that I actually did this, and that you really do. You get yourself kind of really psyched, and it's really all about mind over matter, and just, it's amazing what the mind can do. I'll put it at that when we can focus in on something other than pain and suffering, and we just believe that we can do this, then that's half or 3/4 of the battle, and we can achieve what we want to achieve. So
exactly right. Like if people need to rehab their beliefs, from their limiting beliefs to I can do it. And the firewalk is just an example. And then it leaves people going, well, if I can do this, what else can I do that I didn't think I could do? Right. So I staffed that one also. I was at the end when people were coming across the fire, throwing water on their feet. And that was so great. I'll never forget that. After that one, when I staffed, after all the participants had walked, then the staff got to go again. And so in those days, like this was like, that would have been 1980. They were small, like, I don't know, 400 or 500 or something like that. And I went through Tony's line. And so I get up to Tony and he looks at me and he goes, you know what to do. And that was like the most powerful thing that he could have said. And that's like, remember what you're supposed to say, just empower somebody. And I used that when my sons played Little League in Long Beach, California, and I gave a speech or a talk to the coaches, to the Little League coaches. And I told them that Tony Robbins story, that it's really important. Like when your player is coming up to bat, don't say now, wait for a good pitch. And, so it's sort of indicating that they don't know what to do, and it diminishes their confidence. So I said, just look at them and say, you know what to do. And then, because they do.
True.
Yeah. They don't, it's too late, right? So it's better just to ensure their confidence. So anyway, so I went through the Tony Robbins stuff, and that really impacted me, because it was it was the firewalk. It was the firewalk. So he's up on stage and he said, I'm looking for somebody that's normally very motivated, but they're not motivated about one thing. And I thought, at that point, I had just taken a job raising funds for a school for hearing impaired kids in Whittier, California. And I was afraid to ask people for money, Gloria. Not good for a professional fundraiser. Like, so I was pretty close to the front, and I'm like raising my hand, but then I see somebody coming down the aisle. Right, I'm like, oh, I see what this is. It's like, this is a race. So I jumped out and I like slid onto the floor, like when the wrestlers go under the ropes, right? I slid onto the floor and he worked with me, and I was crying. I'm like, I'm afraid to ask people for money, and these parents are counting on me because they have to pay $40,000 for their 5-year-old child. And he did, I don't even remember what he did. He did some NLP exercise, and at the end of it, the fear was gone. And what that let me know is like, wow, rapid change is possible. So I was thinking, I'm in, count me in on this. And so then I trained and learned how to do all that stuff. I got certified. Then I went and studied with Jim Rohn, because that was one of his mentors. Then I went and took my NLP training because that's what he did. So I just followed those steps. And then the next year was NLP. The next year was Deepak. And then I said, in 1994, I'm like, you know what? I could do this my own self. So I just opened the International Academy of Self-Knowledge. So that was like my transformational journey. So I did a lot of change work during all of those things. I remember standing up at Date with Destiny. This will be an answer to one of my biggest challenges. This was like in 1990, is other people's approval, caring what other people thought. It's like I had a big thing about that. And something happened in that training where I broke through, and I stood up. And Date with Destiny was like maybe 80 people at the time. I was a participant. And I took the microphone and I told them about other people's approval. And I've been, enslaved by that all my life. And I looked at them and I said, I'm like, I got the microphone. I said, I just can't afford to care what you Joe Blows think of me anymore. And I thought, they're going to hate me. They're all going to hate me. They all stood up and gave me a standing ovation. I was so shocked by that, right? Acknowledging that's like, well, good for you. It's about time, right? So those are some of my challenges in the road that I've taken to get where I am.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to highlight a couple of things that you said here, because I think folks they may miss it just in the excitement of listening to you tell your stories. I want to just reiterate a couple of things that you talked about, which I think is important, especially for entrepreneurs, is the fact that you modeled what your mentors were doing. You saw that Jim Rohn was doing NLP, and Tony Robbins as well. And so then you took that training. And so I think that's important to follow what your folks are doing, people that you admire are doing. And then you finally came to the point, though, also where you realize that I can do this. And you start creating your own programs too. And I think sometimes we get into maybe following people too much, and then we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we don't really realize that we do have this wisdom within us to be able to go for it, and to be able to then help people that we want to be able to help, and to be able to have that confidence to do that. So, but I guess that's also part of what your spiritual rehab would be helpful for, I think, for people in that situation.
I was interviewing a prospective student this morning, and he was talking about how he'd helped this guy do his business, and then they cut him out because he lost millions of dollars by being cut out of that. And then he helped these people do their business, and then he got cut out of that. And I said, what's preventing you from having your own business so that's not going to happen again? He's like, yeah, I know, right? So yeah, it's like what you just
hopefully
said.
He will, or maybe he'll hire you to help him.
We're already starting.
Yes.
You know what, Gloria? I never start anybody in the 28-day program, because what I say is like, why should anybody sign up, or why would anybody sign up for 28 days of what they don't even know if they're going to like day one? So I just put them in a 2-hour course and
Okay.
show them the technique, because I need to see if they're a good fit and they need to see if I'm a good fit.
That's true.
Right? So everybody has to say, hey, this works and this is going to be a good thing. Then they can go into the 28 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I've been asking a few of my guests this question lately, so I'm curious to see what your answer would be. Is what impact would you like to have on planet Earth during your lifetime?
Ah, my heart just burns for having an army of transformational coaches doing this program the way it's designed. You know, I haven't changed it in 18 years, and I have coaches trained, and they need more students, right? So they need help. Everybody's like focused on marketing, but because I've done this program for so long and I know how powerful it is, and I know that people get their changes, the impact I want to have is to reach more people. I would want to be one of the reasons, like I didn't used to talk about it in terms of rehab, because it's like, oh, people aren't going to know what that is. And I thought, heck with it. You know what? It's what I do. I can explain it. I think I explained it here in such a way that people would go, oh yeah, that's not weird to have rehab, even though you're not drugs and alcohol. You're not going and checking into a place, right? And we're clear that everybody needs to rehab something. So I want to get that message out. That's why I'm here talking to you. It's like, hey, everybody, I know you got something to rehab, so let's rehab it.
Absolutely. Yeah, because that's part of life, is learning and growing, and we have to be able to, we all have things that we don't like about ourselves, or whatever it is, and so it's always good, and there are things that come up, because I don't know about you, but I have also gone through a lot of personal development work, and like I said, I did the Tony Robbins thing years ago, probably in the early 2000s, but then life happened, and I guess wouldn't say I forgot it, but it didn't have as big an impact on me, because other things were happening in my life, and sort of I wound up getting back into old habits and old ways of thinking that didn't serve me. And
Yeah.
so then I had to go through some other programs, and then it came back. And I think that, even though I know you say that you're able to get 100% transformation, um, I think it is important to let people know that the importance of you were working with people who were committed to it. And I think sometimes that's the important piece, I think, is that you do have to vet people, because sometimes, I think even though I went through the transformation with Tony Robbins, I think there were still other stuff that it really wasn't the right fit for me then. And whereas some other things that happened later were, and it did make a big difference. So, yeah.
And Gloria, you bring up the best point, and it's about consistency, right? It's like anybody can do anything for X amount of time, but can you consistently do it over weeks and months and years, right? So after people finish the 28-day program, I have a consistency program, because you and I know, everybody knows, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? My definition of insanity at a higher level is when you do whatever you need to do, you get your new result, you get the different result, and then then people stop doing the thing that got them the result, expecting to still have the result. They're like, why did I put that weight? How did I put that weight on? Because you stopped exercising and you started
Exactly.
eating again. So consistency
Yeah.
is key. And people need support and accountability, even if it's, once a week or every 2 weeks. But for me, starting off with somebody once a week won't do it. Every 2 weeks won't do it. After they're going, and now we're maintaining, right? We're maintaining, because maintenance seems to be a law, just like gravity on this planet. It's like, you don't brush your teeth tonight and put your toothbrush down and say, you know what, that's it. I shouldn't have to keep brushing my teeth. I've brushed them enough. It's like, well, if you want your teeth, you have to maintain it.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you want your spiritual growth, and you want your good sustained whatever it is that the goal that you've achieved, if you want it to be able to continue, you're right. You've got to be able to keep the work in. And that's a lesson that I had to learn, is that, I always wanted to be fixed now and then that's it. But it's like, I realized that it's like, oh yeah, there's always going to be something else. So and that's okay. So life is a journey, and we just have to keep moving forward, and we keep learning and growing, and I've come to peace with that. Now.
Yes, right. You know what I say, Gloria, is look, that's the way it is. I'm sorry that you have to keep doing the thing and you have to maintain it. I didn't make it up. I didn't make up the system, but I understand that the law of maintenance is in effect and we just have to do it, So, you know what I wanted to tell you? Somebody asked me in one of my interviews, they said, what's the number one reason that people might not work with you?
Mm.
And you know what I said? And it's true. They think they can do it on their own. It's like there's certain things, it's like, come on, man, you've been trying to do it on your own. There's certain things that are not what is it? DIY, do it yourself? Yeah. It's like sometimes you just need to call in a professional, right? And people laugh, when I'm first interviewing or talking to them, they're like, yeah, I tried to do it myself. I'm like, how's that working for you? It's like, it's not working. It's like, all right. But there's such a strong, maybe it's like the American work ethic or something. It's like, I can do it myself. It's like, when it comes to transformation, not necessarily, maybe more in the maintenance, but when stuff needs to be repaired, call in the pros.
Absolutely. Yeah, because what I've found in also working with clients, as well as in my own working with, having coaches working with me, is that we have blinders on. We don't see things that are very obvious to other people. And it takes that other person like yourself, or another type of coach or something like that, to be able to say, oh, did you catch what you just said there? Because that would be me, is like, I would say stuff and I wouldn't hear it. And she would respond back to me, and I'd go, oh crap, I did say that, didn't I? And so that's why you do need to have someone. You can't just do it all yourself all the time. It doesn't work. You really do need support.
And you know what else? I always have a coach, Gloria. Why wouldn't I? Because whatever level somebody's at, there's always the next level and the next level and the next level of challenges. So like, I have marketing coaches, but I have other coaches. Because it's like, well, who's going to coach the coach? I don't want to, I would be a hypocrite. I would be a hypocrite if I said, well, I'm all done, but you people, you need coaches. Like, why wouldn't I need coaching? Didn't Michael Jordan have a coach?
Exactly. Yep. They all do. So if you're listening out there, get a coach. If there's some area of your life that needs some assistance, then definitely look into getting some help, and transformation will happen more quickly when you have someone guiding you. Because that's the problem too, is that sure, you can do it yourself, but it's going to take a lot longer, and you never know what life is going to hold for you. So don't wait. I've learned that lesson. Don't wait. Get it done now. I've been really enjoying this conversation so much. Is there anything else that I should have asked you that we haven't touched on?
No, you asked it all and we touched on it.
Good. Awesome. Well, there's one last question I haven't asked you about, is if someone is listening to this and or watching it and feels that, oh man, she's speaking my language, I want to get in touch with her. What's the best way for people to contact you?
The best way is for them to go to www.transformationalmeditation.org, because I have a free gift for everybody. And it is, like, the biggest thing that people are rehabbing are their thoughts and their emotions. This is the book, especially about how to process emotions. It's my free ebook. It's called The Positive Purpose of Negative Emotions. And it's short. It's only 15 pages long. And there's a flow chart of how to process the negative emotions. So that's transformationalmeditation.org. They just put in their email address, and the book gets mailed. So and then I'll be able to contact them as well.
So, say that title again. So the
positive purpose of negative emotions.
Yes. And that I like that, because we don't necessarily think that there's anything positive to be had by negative emotions, do we?
No, we don't. The truth is that the negative emotions are the equivalent of physical pain. Physical
Mm,
pain lets us know something's wrong.
right.
Emotional pain lets us know something's wrong. So we don't wallow in it. We get the message. Just like the FedEx doors knocking on, FedEx guys knocking on the door and trying to give you a message. So when you give a message, then the negative emotion can jump in the truck and drive away. And in the book, I talk about there are only two messages that a negative emotion could be sending.
Mm.
You'll have to read that.
I guess so. I think I'm going to have to go get a copy of that too, as well. I'm going to check that out. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been delightful. I knew it was going to be, and you proved me correct. So that's good. I
Likewise.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much, Gloria.
And thank all of you for watching and for listening. I so appreciate you. I love reading, when we get positive reviews on either Apple or Podchaser, it's wonderful. So keep it up. And I think that's probably going to do it for this edition of Living, Love, Engage. So until next time, as I always encourage you to do today and every day, is to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.